covered over with grime, or worse. The air smelled of alcohol and vomit. A barkeep stood behind a high bench. She was a native, short and fat, pale and wide-eyed. 3 patrons sprawled in seats at a dirty table. Despite the cold, they wore only trousers and quilted shirts. It was spring in this hemisphere of Nilt, and they were enjoying the warm spell. They pretended not to see me, though they had certainly noticed me in the street and knew what motivated my entrance. Likely one or more of them had been involved. Syverden hadn't been out there long, or she'd have been dead. "I'll rent a sledge," I said, "and buy a hypothermia kit." Behind me, one of the patrons chuckled and said, voice mocking, "Aren't you a tough little girl?" I turned to look at her, to study her face. She was taller than most Nilters, but fat and pale as any of them. She outbulked me, but I was taller, and I was also considerably stronger than I looked. She didn't realize what she was playing with. She was probably male, to judge from the angular maze-like patterns quilting her shirt. I wasn't entirely certain. It wouldn't have mattered if I had been in Radch space. Radch don't care much about gender, and the language they speak, my own first language, doesn't mark gender in any way. This language we were speaking now did, and I could make trouble for myself if I used the wrong forms. It didn't help that cues meant to distinguish gender changed from place to place, sometimes radically, and rarely made much sense to me. I decided to say nothing. After a couple of seconds, she suddenly found something interesting in the tabletop. I could have killed her right there without much effort. I found the idea attractive. But right now, Syverden was my first priority. I turned back to the barkeep. Slouching negligently, she said, as though there had been no interruption, "What kind of place you think this is?" "The kind of place," I said, still safely in linguistic territory that needed no gender marking, "that will rent me a sledge and sell me a hypothermia kit." "How much?" 200 shan. At least twice the going rate, I was sure. "For the sledge, out back. You'll have to get it yourself, another 100 for the kit." "Complete?" I said. "Not used?" She pulled one out from under the bench, and the seal looked undamaged. "Your buddy out there had a tab." Maybe a lie, maybe not. Either way, the number would be pure fiction. "How much?" 350. I could find a way to keep avoiding referring to the barkeep's gender, or I could guess. It was at worst a 50-50 chance. "You're very trusting," I said, guessing male, to let such an indigent— I knew Syverden was male, that one was easy— run up such a debt. The barkeep said nothing. 650 covers all of it? "Yeah," said the barkeep. "Pretty much. No, all of it. We will agree now, and if anyone comes after me later demanding more or tries to rob me, they die." Silence. Then the sound behind me of someone spitting. "Radch scum." I'm not Radch, which was true. You have to be human to be a Radch. "He is," said the barkeep, with a smaller shrug toward the door. "You don't have the accent, but you stink like Radch. "That's the swill you serve your customers." Hoots from the patrons behind me. I reached into a pocket, pulled out a handful of chits, and tossed them on the bench. "Keep the change." I turned to leave. "Your money better be good." "Your sledge had better be out back where you said." And I left. The hypothermia kit first. I rolled Syverden over, then I tore the seal on the kit, snapped an internal off the card, and pushed it into her bloody, half-frozen mouth. Once the indicator on the card showed green, I unfolded the thin wrap, made sure of the charge, wound it around her, and switched it on. Then I went around back for the sledge. No one was waiting for me, which was fortunate. I didn't want to leave bodies behind just yet. I hadn't come here to cause trouble.